So in this dream of mine, that was a combo. God was showing me, essentially, I was in like my apartment, right? The last one that I had, the apartment of which I was made to lose at the beginning of my new life. I was going to get everything new, friends, family. I was going to build everything from scratch because of the way that I was treated by those in my past. And those in my past, so it fit to drag me backwards and keep me locked. And because it was in the Lister building that exploded in 1990 whatever, right? God was showing me that this time around, South Africa is not going to be given a chance. The Lord in that dream was showing me that this time around, the explosion that was set off on that ANC building in 1990 whatever, this time around, the Lord will allow it to bomb the whole building, because he is not going to salvage the country. For what? For who? When this is what you're doing to his saints. The ones who are crying to the Lord are such a remnant. They're such a small number that the Lord would much rather take them out of Sodom and then massacre the town below. The stand by South Africa of Palestine, the stand of this nation with Palestine and its desecration of relations with Israel was for me the final sign from heaven that what I've been suspecting about South Africa all along is true. This country is completely judged. It's over. All that's left is for Lot to get taken out of Sodom. In my dream, I was in this apartment, and that apartment represents to me a place where I wanted to start a future, but one where the rug was pulled from underneath my feet. I spent the whole year there looking for a job, never got it. I ultimately had to move out and into my mom's house. I ultimately had to lose everything. It was a place where I was going to start a new life. I was going to start a new life. Do you understand me? And my country refused that I should. When that is where you stay, God is not going to give you success anyway, because if he gives you success, they're only going to keep sabotaging you in the future. They're going to make sure you can't work. They're going to make sure that you can't work okay. Well, your bosses, the same issues that you experienced prior to losing everything, you're going to endure them again. Your bosses are going to give you bad appraisals even though you were really good. Colleagues are going to pretend your work is not good. They're going to sabotage you. People are going to pull rugs from underneath your feet. You're going to work for a company that's full of sorcerers for employees that keep on bashing each other with witchcraft just to get ahead. You're going to be living in a circus, Tortuga. And it's going to make you look bad. And I am not in the business of making my Christians look bad. I'm in the business of making my innocent believers look obviously, mistreated. That's what I do. My Christians suffer, but when they suffer, they are obviously innocent. That's what I do for my believers. Their vindication is clear. Commit your ways to the Lord and you will do this. He will make your righteousness shine like the dawn and the justice of your vindication like the noonday sun. So God was basically showing me with that he has no intention of letting his Christians look bad in a way that cannot be easily disproved. It's like those who are lying about the believer have to look really crooked. Like the evil has to be stark very clearly. And when then people glide over their wickedness, their land that is ignoring their wickedness then also is made to look shabby. It is made to look shoddy. The land that is disregarding an obvious travesty is made to look like a land full of miscreants. It is made to look like a land full of bandits, like a dishonest country, like a pirate land. Do you understand? A pirate land, like where everybody is crooked. Everybody does what is right in their eyes. In other words, a country that is made to look like Sodom, while Lot and his wife and the children are obviously innocent in a very evil land. That's how God gives vindication to Christians. Even though our justice is refused us, we are nonetheless innocent in a very obvious way. In a very obvious way. If you think about cases of Christian persecution across the earth, especially from nations that hate God, like India or Iran, the Christians, the only reason the cases make the media is because the Christians are so obviously innocent while being afflicted by a mob that is entitled to their destruction, that the international media cannot help but stand with the Christians. That's how God vindicates believers. So he makes his children obviously innocent in a climate of an angry mob that is obviously wrong and is buzzing like an atom on the spot, trying to make everybody believe that they're right, but they can't possibly get that right because anybody at all that looks in sees the facts for what they are, and so comes to a conclusion that barbarians have attacked an innocent people. That's how God vindicates believers. And that's exactly how he's vindicating me. I am obviously innocent, and my land is looking barbaric. And if at all my case were to ultimately get heard and shouted on the rooftops, South Africa would be looked at with people wagging their heads on some, how could you? Who does that to their own people? People would look at South Africa judgmentally, very judgmentally. That's why they're working tooth and nail to blind the world from my case. I am obviously innocent, and it is the obviousness of that innocence that they're trying to block from going out there. So that's why the Lord did not let me get my life back. Otherwise, that clarity of innocence would have dwindled away. It would have fizzled down. And like I said, that apartment, right? It was a place where it is that I was trying to get back my future, but the land refused that I should do so. My country refused that I should do so. And guess who was in this room? We were in my apartment. All of us were in my apartment, but I had lost it. It wasn't my apartment anymore. It was somebody else's. But all of us were running into this apartment, almost like there were bombs exploding outside. They were in my dream. Like I said, it was in the context of that Lister building and this apartment. We were being chased by Hamas. It was literally Hamas. We were being chased by a bunch of gratuitous murderers that had suddenly just hopped on our land and decided to shoot anyone they saw on the street. Anyone they saw on the street. So they were like Hamas that way. All of us ran for cover. We ran for cover, and some of the people that I was running for cover with were like professionals. They were men in suits, women, children. Like, it was just basically getting caught off guard, just like the way that it happened in Israel. And these people, Hamas, you know, the same way that it happened in the kibbutz. Yeah. The way that they just came in and they started shooting indiscriminately. We were being pursued by a force like Hamas in my dream. And we ran into my former apartment. And the owner of that apartment was willing to let us come inside, because in and of themselves they were shocked by the sudden attack. And once we were inside, hiding from these bullets that were raining, hailing all over the show, I noticed that one of my friends from high school was there. One of my former friends from high school was there, right? And in this dream, she was still competing with me. Like, it was so ridiculous. She was literally, we were all running away from gunfire, and there was a girl, some chick that like, she married some dude that really messed her up, and then she ended up getting divorced, type setup thing. Like, he used to beat her up, like, blah blah. And when I tried to reach her for Christ, she ended up turning all sour and bitter because she was already divorced, and so decided to use witchcraft on me. Yeah, it was that friend. And in my dream, she was literally still competing. She did not even want to look like she was, say, you know how right now I've got acne on my face or hyperpigmentation that is fading. She was like, look at my skin, I have no acne. I was like, whoa. Hamas is shooting down South Africans as they walk in the street, and all you can think about is what it is that you have that's better than me. She was still competing. She was also competing with me with the fact that I'm unemployed and she's not. So where it is that I was running, I was wearing these very lowly clothes that I'm wearing right now. Just some top and just 1 minute. These lowly clothes that I'm wearing right now, just some top and some pants. I looked lowly in my dream. I looked lowly. But she was caught from work. It's like she was in the office when this attack happened. And so she was running from a place where she was, like, you know, suited up or on some tip like that. And so as soon as we found safe haven temporarily in this person's apartment that looked like my old apartment, and it was also in the apartment building being bombed, as it is antagonizing basically the ANC's historical headquarters. This chick was not only competing with me with skin, she was also competing with me with the fact that she was dressed, catered to. She had money. Do you understand? And I was poor. I looked lowly. I was running from a position of lowliness, and she was running from a position of opulence. And she was looking at me like I was substandard to her. While bullets were flying outside. She made me so sad in my dream. That was God showing me Stalker has risen again. Never mind, Stalker has risen again, but God was showing me that South Africans are somewhat starting to feel the attack on the country by an enemy force, but they're still inappropriately responding to the emergency at hand. They're still inappropriately responding to the emergency at hand. This chick was still competitive, even though in and of herself she was running away from Hamas. And the people in this room, as they were busy kutsaring, she was showing me her outfit. That's the thing about witches. Remember I told you, when I made a joke in the beginning part of this particular discussion, that witches are like Zoom in the Flash, who want to destroy the multiverse except for Earth 1, because he wants somewhere to hang his coat. They destroy their country, and they hope that their country is going to be okay, just exactly where it is that they're going to hang their coats. Only the ecosystem where they're hanging their coats, let that be okay, but everything else, destroy it. It's gonna come to you at some point. Here is this chick that's hoping that South Africa is going to be maintained only in her ecosystem where she hangs her coat, while everything else gets decimated. But now she was running away from a destructive force that was able to infiltrate the country because of a security, just like what Hamas did in Israel, because of a security failure on the part of the Israelis. It was an intelligence failure in the West way on the part of Israel. In the same way that what's happening in South Africa right now is literally an intelligence failure. I don't know how a government can allow all this nonsense to thrive. I don't know how so much corruption can be allowed to run rampant to a point where nobody is waking up to realize that absent of changing your hearts away from corruption, the country will inevitably drown. You cannot be so defeatist and so greedy and rapacious in your own selfish capacity that you will be prepared that your whole country should crash just so you can be rich. Because on that day, where are you going to spend your money? Where are you going to hang your coat? Where under heaven are you going to lay your body at night if your whole country has been destroyed? Witches are not waking up to realize that. Neither is the corrupt government waking up to realize that the country is being laid destitute because of their corruption. So if you have nowhere to put your coat, if you have nowhere to lay your head at night, then it's time to stop, don't you think? Like, it's time to stop. You gotta know when to stop. Like, your rapacity, your greed cannot be made to linger, be proliferated, when now the gangrene is spreading even to your backyard. At what point do you stop? When you are also running from a hail of bullets from people who were able to pierce through your border fence due to your intelligence failures. At which point are you, as a little criminal and embezzler, you who is a money launderer, at what point are you going to stop laundering money from an economy that is literally utterly getting devastated? It is dying. The whole country is dying. At what point are you going to say, okay, I've got enough gold now in my bag, let me at least make sure that the country doesn't collapse, because if I steal one more gold coin, the whole country will collapse. This chick was unable in my dream to get to that place where now we all gotta be sober, because look, thanks to this intelligence failure on our part, Hamas has now broken through the fence and is shooting innocent men, women and children in the kibbutz and at a music festival. That under heaven is what is going on. Hamas rocked up, all of us were running, but this chick was still competing. The Lord was showing me the state of the nation. He was showing me that, Karabo, the reason I didn't give you a job is because if I did, you were gonna have a hard time in corporate. You were always gonna be miserable. You were always gonna have somebody throwing bullets at you, preventing you even from getting married. And if you got married anyway, your wedding was gonna be barely attended. You were also gonna miss everybody that you ever loved not being at your wedding. You were going to be sabotaged at that wedding. Your marriage was going to be hard because of the level of attack that people would have constantly thrown at you because you're Christian. I did not give you breakthrough because your life was going to be hard in breakthrough. You cannot live in a country like South Africa as a Christian successfully. I did not give you prosperity because if I did, they were going to come against you and they were going to sabotage you with their wickedness. And evidence of it is the fact that in my dream, I was seeing a woman who was under attack, as was I, and yet she was still competing. She was still competing. At some point, as we were hunkered down in this house that was no longer mine, in my dream I was in so much nostalgia and sorrow because this house was no longer mine, right? It belonged to somebody else and it had somebody else's furniture in it, and one of the couches was blood red, and blood red in my dream always represents witchcraft. So whoever it is that was living there was also a practicing witch. And my former friend in the dream was also priding herself in the fact that I had lost that apartment. It was mine at some point and glorious with God's grace in it, and now it was inhabited by an unbeliever that was also into witchcraft. Nonetheless, that same unbeliever, because the whole country was under attack, he allowed people to come in his house, but his house stopped being safe. That home, that place, it stopped being safe. So essentially God was showing me the same bomb that was thrown on the list of buildings in the 90s against the ANC to prevent progress in the country, that I blocked from finishing its job. This time around, I'm gonna let it finish its job. This time around, I'm not going to spare South Africa from destruction. This time around, I'm going to let South Africa fall into civil war. This time around, I am going to let them endure the wrath of their enemies. I am going to allow the devil to lay this place destitute. I told you, judgment is here in South Africa. It is here. And it is likely very ironic that Hamas was used in my dream, because South Africa is also gone. It's a whole Muslim takeover in this country. It's a Christian nation, but there is a Muslim takeover happening. And thanks to the Muslim takeover, the national gem that is Christ that we had, he is leaving. And when then you're left with just an empty shell of religion without true Christianity, you are on that day a Muslim nation. And who in the world is truly happy in a Muslim nation? Go ask me if women there are happy. Go ask me if men there are happy, especially when they are subjugated to the tyranny of very hard knock Sharia law. Muslim nations do not produce happy citizens. It's that basic. There's a lot of authoritarianism in the sky. Lots of fascism, yet they claim themselves a religion of peace. So if at all you're getting taken over by a Muslim force in a country that's going to convert the whole nation into a Muslim country, women are going to have their rights decimated. You're going to have like a religion operating in your country that leaves no one freedom to be themselves. No one. And men are then also allowed to pontificate themselves unto an unfettered and undisturbed misogyny, like a chauvinism that they get away with. South Africa is already suffering from gender-based violence. So if the whole country gets converted to Muslim, if it starts to grow in its Muslim population, then these chauvinistic males all over the show that are also murderous, full of like gender-based violence, they are going to feel justified to massacre women even more. Our country has been handed over to the dogs, guys. It's like literally that bad. And in this house that we were at, chilling in this like, I guess, witch's house, hunkering down, we got intelligence, understanding in my dream that I'm probably not going to manage to work out today because of these conversations. And besides, I'm backlogged like ridiculously. I gained intelligence in my dream, understanding that what is this? That Hamas has located where we are hiding. That where it is that we're at, they're gonna come and finish every last one of us off. That they're gonna come and finish every last one of us off. That's when we knew we had to go. We had to leave. We had to leave. We could not stay there for any amount of time. Otherwise, we were as good as dead if we stayed there. Right? When then that decision was made, all of a sudden one of my classmates from high school grade 8 and 9, who was a Jewish girl, rocked up and she grabbed me by the hand before I had exited the house to run. Right now it was every man for himself. And she was like, Karabo, talk to me, what is wrong? Talk to me, what is wrong? And in my dream I was like, it's nothing. I wouldn't tell her. This chick is a Jew. What God is showing me is that Jews in South Africa are starting to ask the right. God was showing me with that, like this chick. I told you that this chick from my high school that was a classmate of mine, and she was Jewish, right? When I was leaving, she grabbed my hand. She popped up from out of nowhere, grabbed my hand, and was like, Karabo, talk to me, what's going on? And I was like to her, nothing, it's nothing. Because I was in a rush to just run, and I was also very heartbroken from what this friend of mine had done. I don't want to talk. But what God was showing me is that Jews in this country, maybe across the world, they are starting to ask the right questions because they are noticing an increase in anti-Semitism across the world. And South Africa has officially declared itself as an anti-Semite. It has officially declared itself as an anti-Semitic country. And Jews in the country are worried about their future because of the proclamations on the rooftop by Cyril Ramaphosa against Israel. It's like, what is going to become of us as Jews, especially if they're trying to disband the Jewish embassy in the country, making it impossible for Jews to have safe asylum or haven in this country anywhere. This chick was a Jewish girl and she was trying to get information out of me, but I was so distracted and I was also in so much pain and out of it that I didn't want to talk. In my dream, I didn't want to talk. Yeah, South Africa, long story short, what I'm trying to explain to you is that you have put Jews on the edge of their seats. And any country that puts Jews on the edge of their seats is judged. It's judged. This chick is my friend on Facebook. She saw me ranting and raving some months ago to everybody as I was busy saying, you guys are nasty, you're messed up, how could you do this, little lawyer about from Facebook, wada. I eventually walked away from my Facebook because I felt like everybody just worthlessly ignored me. But this chick finally came to me, grabbed me by the hand and was like, okay, talk to me. What's going on? I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear what you have to say. What would cause a person that just like everybody else who ignored me on Facebook suddenly want to be like, okay, what's going on? Tell me. What's going on? Tell me what's going on. It's the fact that after all these months have progressed, now all of a sudden Jews are noticing that they're not safe anywhere, and the only people that are supportive of them, the only people that are standing with them are true Christians. It's Christians that understand the Bible, and we've got the numbers in a way that they struggle with numbers, and so any support that they can get, they're taking it. She's likely experiencing where she is at or where they are at a lot of anti-Semitic sentiment in the office where they work. They've probably got colleagues who are busy politically just flailing Palestinian flags at their desks, hinting, right? So if you're a Jewish colleague, you've got like these bad vibes from a colleague that used to be good to you once upon a time. This chick wanted to talk to me in a way that she had ignored me just months ago, and I did not have time to pay attention to her because I was in so much pain. Ultimately, it was every man for himself, right? This chick tried to talk to me. I was in too much of a painful state to focus on her, and I believe my difficulty to focus on her or talk to her was also God showing me that the Jewish population of South Africa has wasted time in the warnings that they have received from Christians. Never mind the Jewish population, but every watchman and every watchwoman that has been standing on a rooftop warning, sounding an alarm. We've been ignored for so long that now that the sirens are going off and now that bombs are landing, we don't have time to give people one-on-one attention anymore. Like the same curious conversation that we ought to have had months ago, we can't have it now because there's just no time to elaborate, expand. There is no time to exposit on it anymore. Now, guns are blazing, people are dying, and so it is the prerogative or responsibility of sad Jews or confused Jews or Jews that are scared for their futures to basically interrogate or investigate what is their best option by themselves. They're gonna have to do this by themselves, because when a nation is being bombed now, everybody's running, including the Christian that tried to warn you. They're running. And in my dream, this Jewish girl from my school was like, Karabo, talk to me. And I was just in so much pain. I was so bereft. I was going through so much that I was like, it's nothing. All of a sudden, she wanted to talk. Would you not want to talk when all of a sudden your country makes a decision to cut diplomatic ties with your country? All of a sudden, there's so much anti-Semitism. You are struggling as a Jew to even mention that you're Jew when it is no longer easy for you to just mention in a conversation, oh, I'm Jew. It's not for you to mention in a conversation with people that you are a Jewish person. You can't, like, Jews, ever since what happened on the 7th of October, can't just drop the fact that they're Jews. In Europe, they have been advised to not show anything visibly on the outside of them that they're Jewish. There are Orthodox Jews that look so Jewish that there's no ignoring them. They're always wearing either, is it a yarmulke or whatever, or those hats that Jews wear. And they've got these tassels and these beards that are like, crocheted or whatever. And when they're walking around and wearing those suits of theirs, when they walk around, they look like rabbis. When they're walking around, they look like Jews. And in Europe, they were advised to go and wear a jean and a t-shirt. They were literally advised to go and wear jeans and t-shirts and not walk around in society looking so much like a Jew. That's what they were told. That's how bad the case is right now against Jews. And so when things are that bad, that's when now this chick is coming to me on some talk to me, and I couldn't focus on her. And again, like I said, if a land is that abusive towards the Jews to a point now where they're scared to so much as reveal that they're Jewish in any ecosystem, that country's judged, it's over. Like, I properly don't even know, guys, if, what do you call this? If there is a future, I don't know. Like, something tells me that the rapture is happening because with all of this chaos, anyway, whatever. The dream then, I remember we're in this house. We all then end up leaving, running out of there. Otherwise, it's a suicide mission to stay. And we scattered, like everybody, it was every man for himself. And I was then running like everywhere. Like it was so desolate. The country was bombed. There were just rockets flying all over the show. Yo, guys, it was war. But even though it was war everywhere and it was every man for himself, my car keys, right? I had left them by mistake in the house where I was at. I had left my car keys there. And I was out there running, hoping to find my car started and then start driving. And because I was walking around, I then had some random, boy, YouTube star guy that has got, he's got a big channel. He's a comedian. He was out here busy and share. Guys, I'm there was war. Do you understand? Bullets were flying. People were running away. No one was safe. And the outside world was also a combination of a school, guys, my high school. Whenever you see things from so long ago, it speaks of regression. it speaks of witchcraft. It's just, yeah, it was like a maze made up of my old high school and like some horror movie that I once saw, also a school there. Like, yeah, guys, yeah, anyway, it was a horrible ecosystem. And I meet this guy and he starts to like literally shella me in the middle of this chaos. That was God showing me, asking me out. That's what shella means. That was God showing me no one is responding appropriately to the calamities about us. No one is appropriately responding to the dangers around. Literally, absolutely nobody. Men, like, nobody is serious. Nobody sees this forward. Remember my friend was still competing with me. Here it is that this guy that's a big YouTuber, he was shellering in the middle of bombs, like flicking at rockets flying, bullets hailing, members of Hamas just indiscriminately shooting people around in the street. And this guy was like asking me out. I just looked at him on some, do you know where my car keys are? And then he's like, I can help you find your car keys. I can help you find your car keys if you go on a date with me. I just rolled my eyes. Basically, my car keys represent ministry. Car keys represent ministry. Do you understand? So car keys is basically something that is supposed to start or ignite ministry. And I had left my car keys behind. And this guy's actually telling me he can help me find my ministry, build my YouTube channel, essentially, if I go on a date with him. Like, as in, yeah, okay, like, yeah, I am a very serious woman of God. We are very serious people of God. We don't have time to be fraternizing in the middle of a war. But people don't see that it's war, except look around. I just left this guy there, still looking for my car keys, looking for my car keys. Ultimately, I happened upon a band of people. All of us were black in race, right? And these people all were also running. Everybody was running. So I found a group to run with. And we are running. There appears to be safety nowhere running. Ultimately, we get to an apartment building. And this apartment building looked like the apartment building that my dad and his second wife stayed in. This apartment represents a time in my life when I was, my dad and his second wife lived in some apartment building in downtown Joburg as well. Once he did get, I guess, remarried and what have you, and there was a lot of cognitive dissonance from that marriage coming together, right? A second wife in a dream also represents compromise against what God would have you actually do. It represents greed and rapacity that makes you put away your first love in order to enjoy the breasts of another woman. The Bible says you must always love the woman of your youth. May her breasts ever satisfy you. May you ever be intoxicated with her love. So marriage and remarriage is something that God is entirely against. I can't say that enough. And this particular apartment building that we ran to was the one where my dad and his second wife were staying. And it was also a combination of an apartment of this one former friend that I had that also was a little witch, that was dating this one white chick when I was at Wits. He was a black guy and he was dating a white chick, and they lived in this apartment. This apartment was a combination of the apartment of that guy, and it was also a combination of the apartment of my dad and his second wife. Okay, now that you've understood that, we ran to this apartment and it was empty, right? Not empty of furniture, but there was no one there. There was no one. And so we were like, guys, let's come in here and find rest, because we've been running all day. We're exhausted. We need somewhere to sleep and rest. We need somewhere to rest. And so we come into this apartment. It has nobody in it. And so we tell ourselves that, you know, like the three little bears, some like Goldilocks. Yeah, we were like Goldilocks. We rocked up and we decided to just make ourselves at home inside this house. And we were starting to relax. We were starting to even doze off and sleep. We were starting to find peace until some, like, it looked like they could have been like young white like people. It was like a group of Gen Zs. Yeah, a group of Gen Zs, right? Or maybe like very latter part millennials, like very, a group of Gen Zs. They look like they could be no older than 23, 24. A group of Gen Zs the white Gen Zs, they were white in color in particular. That was something that had to be highlighted. Okay, remember, we're all in South Africa now. And then they basically, we locked the door, right? Because remember, we're running away from Hamas, we're running away from threats and what have you. And so we locked the door once we came in. The door was wide open. We went in, we locked the door. And so when they tried to come in, when they tried to just easily come in, they couldn't. And then they went around and noticed from the window of the bedroom where we were sleeping, all of us, that Hebatung, these blacks, that's what they were saying in the dream. They were like, who are these people? Like, there's like a whole, like there's like 5 or 6 black people sleeping on our bed. Like, what's happening? What's going on? And we saw them at first when they were like peeping into the window, and they looked at us on some, what are you doing, right? And we just looked at them on some whatever, because they did not knock hard and insist on coming in or telling us, get out, it's our house or whatever. We thought that they were just eavesdropping, like peeping into a house that they ought not be peeping into. So we wrote them off. And we still continued to sleep and rest until ultimately they came back around again. And they were like, go, get out of our house. Get out of our house. And that's when we were like, oh goodness, guys, this house actually belongs to those kids. Okay, fine. So we got up, right? And as we were getting out of this bedroom where we were sleeping, the owner of this house, which was a white male, was like, you guys better be grateful that I'm not the type of person to call police on you blacks. You guys better be grateful that I'm not the kind of person to call the police on you, otherwise you'd be arrested for trespassing on our property. And we were supposed to feel grateful or something for that, while his friends were looking at us, or his siblings, whatever it is that they were, looked at us on, just wagging their heads on some, how could you come in? Now, what in the world was that part of the dream describing to me? What was God showing me? In South Africa, there is indeed a problem because of the observation of the defeatism of black people. White folk, I've already told you guys this in a dream before. There's a dream that I got some time ago. By some time ago, I mean like 2 or 3 months, really. It's not even that long ago. Yeah, where it is that I saw in Cape Town, there being what do you call this? There was like a coven started, a cult, like started by Gen Z, white kids. And the purpose of the coven, it was in I told you it was commenced in Cape Town. The purpose of it was to basically right the wrongs of these Gen Z's parents, because they imagined that there were two namby-pamby being pulled by the ear by the South African black majority and the South African black government that has basically, subdued white people to the tyranny of a corrupt government. That in the absence of black people stopping this defeatism, they have, because of their proliferation of literally their insanity. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because of the proliferation of black people's insanity, white kids have made an observation that if they're gonna salvage their future, if they are going to keep their future in a country that is majority black, where their parents are scared to speak about what's wrong, lest they should be accused of being racist, that if they don't take matters into their own hands, they're gonna lose this entire country. And so they literally created for themselves a cult where they're going to reorder or refashion events in order to prevent themselves from being stolen from a portion of their country by black people who are defeatist and can't even take care of themselves. Like, they have a mindset that black people can't even take care of themselves, and upon making an observation of the defeatism of black people, then took matters into their own hands as youth, as kids who thought that their parents were too namby-pamby to deal with the black defeatism. I've explained that dream to you guys before. So there is a whole looming threat coming from Cape Town of a whole coven of kids that would not have ended up racist if they had not made an observation of the black government's and black people's self-destruction. I have spoken about this over and over and over again. There are too many blacks in South Africa to be ignored, and so everybody else is subjugated to the tyranny of their insanity. And if at all nothing gets corrected, if black people don't repent, they're going to spur up racism in the hearts of kids that were not raised racist. They were not raised to hate blacks. They were not raised in an ecosystem where they were taught an evil ideology. They just concocted one from simply making an observation that their parents are letting stuff slide out of fear, while in and of themselves they felt like they're strong enough, they're the future, they are brave, and so they're gonna take South Africa back, whether or not blacks like it. And these kids were like that. These white kids were like that. They were made racist by the observation of a defeatist black population. Whoa. And when they saw us resting on their beds, they were full of mockery. Do you understand? On some, this is our place. We have peace here, except the whole country is under a dereliction. Everybody is in danger. We ran away from a threat and found safe haven in this apartment, but this apartment was still in South Africa. It was also, like I said, my dad's apartment with his second wife, and also an apartment where it is that it was mixed up with an apartment where it is that one of my former friends used to live with his white girlfriend as a black man. All right, this the whole second wife thing was the Lord showing me a settling, a compromise, it would have been better if things were the way they ought to be. But since we can't get things the way that we want them to be, we're going to create our own little new thing that we're doing. We're going to come up with our own rules. It's like marrying a woman and then divorcing her and taking a second wife. That's wrong in the sight of God. You must always enjoy the breast of the wife of your youth. Do you understand? According to God, one wife, and that's one wife only, otherwise you commit adultery. But when you are so dissatisfied with your first wife that you can't deal, you then take a second wife and then make a doctrine. You create a doctrine. You innovate. You invent new ways to sin. You come up with a way to basically still be safe in the sight of God while committing adultery for the rest of your days. That's what a lot of remarried people are like. They know what the Bible has to say about marriage and remarriage, but they want a God in their own image. And so they go on right ahead and manufacture him. They go on right ahead and create him. And these kids had created a rhetoric in their own image that is going to correct the ills of South Africa. These kids had created a rhetoric in their own image that was then going to remake South Africa, except they only get one South Africa. Just like you only get one wife. Unless she passes away, then only can you go and grab for yourself a second wife. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, so these children that were mocking us as blacks, even though they were insincere in their mockery of blacks, from the first dream that I got about this cult full of white children, well, they were not children, they were like Gen Z's, like early 20s, okay? They were not fully converted to darkness. In other words, they were not fully racist. They were not fully racist. They were en route becoming like Aviabia. They were not comprehensively taken over. And the reason why they were not comprehensively taken over by a racist ideology is because they were not raised racist. They were not raised in ecosystems where they would hate black people. They also had grown up as children among black people, had black friends as kids, but they ended up getting embittered as white kids upon realizing that their whole country is being, like the carpet is being ripped from underneath their feet by an irresponsible black government. So they don't entirely hate black people, but they're getting to a point where they're like, if we don't take matters into our own hands, we're going to be destroyed as a country by these blacks. That was their mindset. That was their mindset. That is exactly like what it is that Christians who go and marry and remarry are like. They don't want to walk away from God entirely. They don't want to disregard doctrine. They don't want to ignore what God is and who he says he is and what he insists we be as his disciples. They don't want to mess up with God. But they also want their bread buttered on both sides, where they feel like they can come up with a doctrine that God won't be too upset with. They're not fornicating, Mus. I'm having sex with my wife, even though it's my third wife. Yeah, that's what it is that these kids were like. They were like I told you, it was like an apartment of my dad with his second wife, but it was also mixed with this one dude that I used to be friends with at Wits, who had a white girlfriend that he was living with. It was a mix of black and white. These kids, these white kids, were not necessarily hateful of black people, but they definitely had a mindset or a doctrine that black people have to be subdued under more like structured leadership. And if you don't build a country that they're going to have to make like a peg and fit into whatever hole we create, they can just go. They can just go. Like just a destructive rhetoric that will ultimately end up in full-on racism. Yeah. So that's why it was a combination of the apartment with the black-white couple as well as my dad with the second wife. Okay, very well. These kids did not kick us out the way that a racist people would kick out blacks squatting in their residences. They knocked on the window and told us to get out. They were not violent. And the one dude even prided himself in the fact that he's not the kind of person to call the police on blacks. So we better be grateful to him. Otherwise, he would have called the police on blacks. So they have got a self-righteousness. They've got a reputation for being alive even though they're dead. They pride themselves in not being mean to blacks, but also insist that they ought to be the leaders over blacks, given that blacks cannot hold themselves in horses. And so when they found us in this apartment, they were like, okay, politely please get out of our house. Politely please get out of our house. We indeed did just that. But after getting us, so basically that was God showing me what the ridiculousness of South Africa has produced out of the youth in South Africa. It has made Gen Z whites, especially in Cape Town from what I saw, try to come up with a South Africa in their own image. But just like with the Bible, you only get one wife that God will recognize. You only get one country. You can't make it in your own image. This is South Africa. Like, it is what it is. Fix the country. Fix your relationship with your first wife instead of getting a second wife. That's what God said. So these kids were supposed to pray and strive for the restoration of their country to a sensible state. Instead, they basically went and compromised and took another alternative diabolical turn to fixing the errors of South Africa. They imagined that they are going to restore white leadership because only white people can take care of a country that has obviously been laid waste by blacks. That was the mindset in there. Anyway, we end up leaving these Gen Zs to live in their apartment together as what they imagine to be responsible whites over blacks. Okay, we get out of this apartment and everywhere it is still hailing bullets. So those kids were also in harm's way. They were gonna get killed if they stayed in that apartment of theirs. They were also gonna get found by Hamas, and they were gonna get shot dead. So no one is safe in this country, including those who think they've got an alternative solution to this black defeatism. We continue to run and run and run, and at this point it's like we don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. And as we are running, do you understand? As we're running, ultimately we happen upon like people carrying like machine guns, right? We see these like people wearing black military outfits, looking like ops people, operations people, and they were carrying machine guns. And we were like, guys, we have ran, but this is the end. We imagined that we were now going to get shot and killed because now we had happened upon the attacking forces, right? And so we just stood there and waited to get killed. When we saw these armed people, we waited to get killed, right? At first we tried to hide from them, right? And then the people saw us, and so when they saw us, we were like, I just stand still because maybe they might take us for hostages instead of killing us. Don't run, because if you try to run, they're gonna kill you. Like, don't run. And then we were made to look around. And guys, remember, this is a sectional title, an apartment building. We looked outside and saw all the other encircling buildings in the city, and on rooftops were snipers. On rooftops were like snipers. What's this, like assassins with snipers, perched on roofs at every corner that you look at. Like, you look left, we were surrounded. There was no running. They were everywhere, like an ant infestation, and they had populated the whole city. And so we just sat there, stood there, and were like, this is the end, I guess. We tried to run, but we can't hide. Until these ops people, these militants, it appeared, were not Hamas, but they were the apprehenders of Hamas. They were the forces that were brought in to apprehend. And guys, whether or not you were happy to hear this, I'm gonna say it because it was in my dream. It was literally the FBI. It was the Federal Bureau of Investigations from the United States of America. These people were FBI agents in South Africa. This was in South Africa. This was happening. These people were not holy. There was nothing wholesome about them. But we understood them as ones that we have peace in them, that they were brought in to deal with the threat of Hamas on the ground, to deal with the threat of this force that's coming from outside, just indiscriminately shooting civilians on the floor. And these guys turned out to be the FBI, and they were wearing these black militant outfits. God was showing me with the color of their outfits that they don't represent holiness or even true salvation, but they are a respite. They are relief. They are relief for the torment that that everybody is endured under by these extraneous attacks. They are a relief, even though they are an unholy relief, but nonetheless a relief. So it is not that okay, like I said, whether or not you want to be glad with this information, it was the Federal Bureau of Investigations, it was the FBI, it was an American presence, an American force in South Africa that gave relief to everybody that was running away, that was under siege by this extraneous attack. It was the FBI, and these FBI people then called us. One minute. One lady that was like a shooting lady, right, holding one of these big guns, was like, "What are you guys still standing there for? Like, get away from there. Come inside." And so we walked towards him as a group, we walked towards her as a group, and then she puts us behind her and then continues to patrol the area. And as a result of this FBI presence, the Hamas threat was not eliminated, but it was severely squelched. It was minimized. Like, Hamas had to be a lot more stealthy now. They had to be a lot more stealthy if they wanted to go house to house and kill people. They could not just run around in the streets and shoot. They had to go and attack stealthily. They were still forcing to fight, but there was too much of a resisting force around that if any of them was spotted in public, they would get shot dead straight away from snipers, like proper. These FBI agents were so scattered all over that some of them were on roofs perched with snipers waiting to shoot any terrorist that was walking around in the room. So they ultimately put us in a room, okay, and in this room I started to feel like I needed to pee, but that was part of the fact that I actually in waking life needed to pee. You know how that makes it into your dream? So I was like, my goodness gracious, I need to pee. What bathroom am I going to use? The only one that I know is the one in my former apartment. And the FBI agent was like, "No, here's a key to a bathroom up there. In a way that it is safe. You're not going back to that apartment because that is a target by Hamas, and they're gonna go in there and they're gonna shoot anybody on the inside." And that is how my dream practically ended, where it is that I needed to pee, okay, and I told this FBI agent that I need to use the bathroom, I'm pressed, and instead of going to a dangerous place to go pee, she gave me a key to go to some other bathroom upstairs, where it is that I would be safe to do my business. I then eventually woke up because I needed to pee. Yeah, I woke up and so I went and I used the bathroom. Yeah, type of setup thing. And that's how that dream ended. Now, in terms of the FBI presence, for the life of me, I don't even know what that means. I have a massive bone to pick with America right now. I am very heavily upset with America. And so I feel like there's nothing good that can come from there. But from what the Lord showed me, they are the present solution to whatever under heaven is happening, even in South Africa. I cannot explain to you what that means. Remember, I said yesterday, and it was the day before yesterday, the video that I did, that South Africans need to get out of the country. They need to leave because this country is judged. The land has been infiltrated by essentially Hamas, and it was shooting everybody down, right, etc. Like the pro-Palestinian stance that the country's taking is basically shooting dead Jews and Christians in South Africa. Literally, I did a video just 2 days ago explaining that if you're Jewish or Christian in South Africa, you're in danger. And that's what that dream was showing me. People were just in danger by mere virtue of being professing Christians or Jews. And I saw that one Jewish girl who was scared, remember? And it then became an American ubiquitous presence that gave South Africans peace to walk and live. I don't think that God was showing me, guys, I don't think he was showing me that an American fighting force is coming to this country, because South Africa is not resisting Hamas. South Africa is not resisting Palestine. South Africa is not resisting hostilities against Israel. They're not resisting that. South Africa is standing with it, meaning that if you're a Christian in this country, you're as good as shot dead by Hamas. That's what God was showing me. And so the only place where South Africans are safe, from what I saw in my dream, we was protected by FBI agents. So it was a militant force from the US of A. I told you guys that y'all need to move to the west that Europe is safe for you, and America, I wrote them off. On some, I feel like God is judging them. It's over for America because of their sins that are piling up to the heavens, plus they're nowhere to be found in Bible prophecy. Well, what it is that I saw in my dream, America was the relief for a remnant. America was a relief for the small group that I was running around with. Do you understand? It was FBI agents, but remember, these FBI agents were clothed. They were just like clothed in this like black outfit. They're not holy. They're not good. They're not peaceable, but they are antagonistic to a Muslim takeover. A Muslim takeover. They are also antagonistic to a Jewish annihilation. America is utterly and comprehensively, from what the Lord showed me, a place where it is that Christians and Jews, it appears, still have some kind of protection. I like yesterday I spoke about, not yesterday, day before, whatever, Europe being a thing. And I said go to Europe because that's where you're likely safest. If you've got a work permit, if you've got all these things, right? If you've got lots of skills, lots of experience, lots of expertise, and you can get poached as a South African to go and live in another nation, go to Europe. Well, according to what God showed me, the US is even more protective of South Africans that are desperate to escape this Muslim takeover in the country that is going to cause Christian persecution and Jewish persecution, that America is apparently, allegedly, a safe haven. That's what I saw in my dream, because we gained a refuge or peace finally, running everywhere all over the show in an American militant force. But they were evil. Not evil, just not good. They were not good. They were not evil, but they were also not good, but they were certainly protective against Hamas. And then my dream ended. I don't know why God was showing me that's the only interpretation that I can come up with why an American militant force was used in my dream. That's not what I'm saying. Maybe it was God causing me to not entirely give up on America type establishment thing, but I personally, I would not want to move to the US because I watch enough TV or enough news to realize that they're falling apart. But from what it is that God is showing me, like, whatever, he's basically confirmed to me that South Africa is not safe if you're Jewish or Christian. It's not safe. There is a takeover, and the forces that are taking over are weak in comparison to the protective force of from what the Lord shows me the US is. That's all that I can come up with. But what is definitely certain from that dream is that South Africa is besieged, it's beleaguered, and it is being finished off by God because of the defeatism of its people. Oh, I said the dream ended with me needing to use the loo. True story, but before then, I saw my former friend from high school, the one that was competing with me in the dream, walking on, acting like I'm nothing with my former best friend. So they go on and they are with each other, and they were able to live safely in South Africa. They were able to live peaceably in South Africa without the FBI because they lost. They were walking in the sunset, the two of them still priding themselves on being above me. They were able to like literally walk in the sun, bright, sparking, shining, while everybody else was running away from Hamas. I was in danger with 5 other people alone, while these two started out being in danger and then they ended up being free on the street. That was the Lord showing me. The pagan, the wicked, the unbelievers, they're going to have temporary peace in the country. They're going to be the only ones that are enabled to thrive. They're going to be the only ones that can survive and live and see the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day. Only ones. But Christians and Jews, you better get out of South Africa. I believe the Lord has shown me that Christians and Jews need to get out of South Africa. And in terms of recommendation, he has recommended America. And of course, you would have to go in via the right channels. Like if you are an accountant, if you are an Elon Musk, go there and offer them your Starlink and they will take you gladly. Like, I don't know how in the world I'm gonna get out of this country. I gotta go. But from what the Lord showed me, South Africans have basically safety for a decent amount of time in America, a country that I believe is on its way out and severely judged, is nonetheless recommended for Jews and Christians for now. It has been recommended all along. I thought God had written it off, but from what I saw in my dream, that's not the case. But South Africa is no longer habitable for believers. Don't say I did not warn you, guys. I did. I warned you. I'm signing out in Christ's name, Crank. Bye.